The stage lights burned hot against the crowded auditorium, their glare bouncing across restless faces. Cameras hovered like watchful eyes, waiting to capture history in motion. The air was already electric, a cocktail of curiosity, tension, and the unspoken promise that tonight would not pass quietly. Candace Owens leaned forward, her posture stiff, her jaw tight. For a moment, it seemed she might keep her composure, but then the mask slipped. Her voice cracked through the microphone, sharp and unrelenting. She jabbed her finger toward Jasmine Crockett, each word hurled like a dagger. The sentences tumbled, out louder, angrier, the volume swelling until it was less an argument and more a scream. Gasps rippled across the room. Some in the audience clapped, feeding off the spectacle, hungry for the chaos. Others winced, shifting uncomfortably in their seats, embarrassed by the raw hostility on display. Phones shot up. Live streams flickered to life, and the digital world outside the auditorium rushed to join in real time. And yet, the center of it all, Jasmine Crockett remained still. She sat poised, hands folded lightly in her lap, her face unreadable. It's not a flinch, not a smirk, not even the faint tightening of an eyebrow betrayed her. She let the storm rage in front of her, allowed the insults to echo against the walls, while she simply breathed. The contrast was stark, almost cinematic. Owens, visibly rattled by her own fury, and Crockett, cloaked in silence so heavy it bent the air around her. In that silence, the audience leaned closer, straining to see what might come next. Would Jasmine strike back? Would she rise and interrupt? Or would she allow Candace's fury to burn itself out? Seconds stretched into eternities. Owens shouted. Crockett remained unshaken. It was a duel without swords, a clash without equal. Footing one woman unraveling under the weight of her own rage, the other sharpening her calm into an invisible weapon, and then it happened. Candace spat out a line so shocking, so reckless, that the audience collectively gasped, hands flying. Two mouths' whispers colliding into a chorus of disbelief. The moment froze in time. No one could believe what Candace just screamed, but Jasmine's response would turn the entire room upside down. To understand why this moment shook the internet, we need to step back. This wasn't just another political debate. It wasn't another night of scripted lines and recycled talking points. From the moment the two women stepped onto that stage, it was clear something heavier was at stakes, something larger than the clash of personalities. Candace Owens strode out with the confidence of someone who believed she had already won. She carried herself like a storm waiting to strike, every movement sharp, every glance designed to command the room. To her supporters, she was a fearless truth-teller, unafraid to challenge the so-called establishment. To her critics, she was an agent of division, wielding mockery and rage like blunt instruments. On the other side sat Jasmine Crockett, the antithesis of Candace's theatrics. She didn't need to shout or pace the stage to hold attention. She simply sat with a stillness that drew eyes toward her. There was power in her restraint, power in the way she measured every breath. Where Candace radiated chaos, Jasmine radiated control. And it was this contrast, the scream against the silence, that transformed a political argument into a moral confrontation. The audience knew it too. The auditorium was split down the middle, not just physically, but spiritually. Half cheered with each jab from Candace, rising from their seats with the fervor of fans at a boxing match. The other half sat tense, protective, hoping Jasmine would not simply survive the onslaught, but deliver a reminder that dignity can triumph even in a room rigged for spectacle. Every gasp, every murmur, every eruption of applause carried the weight of a deeper divide, one that stretched far beyond those four walls. Because this was never really about two women trading barbs on stage. It was about race. It was about respect. It was about who gets to tell the story of America and whose voices are dismissed or demeaned. For Candace, the strategy was simple: dominate, belittle, destabilize. For Jasmine, the strategy was just as clear: remain deliberate. Resist being pulled into the chaos, and let calm itself become the sharpest rebuttal. and so the stakes kept rising with every passing second. Viewers at home weren't just watching. Two political figures clashed, they were watching two Americas collide. When America shouted, red-faced and furious, eager to silence dissent with sheer volume. The other America held its ground with quiet resilience, refusing to match rage with rage, proving instead that composure can be a weapon as sharp as any insult. The cameras caught every beat of sweat, every tightening jawline, every flicker of expression. Commentators on live streams whispered predictions. Twitter feeds erupted mid-debate, hashtags blooming like wildfire. The nation wasn't just witnessing a disagreement, it was witnessing the embodiment of a struggle that had defined generations. Arrogance against dignity, chaos against truth, hostility against calm. And then came the sense of inevitability. The simmering awareness that this confrontation was moving towards something no one could ignore. The audience braced itself, perched on the edge of anticipation, waiting for the moment when the silence would finally break. They didn't know when Jasmine would speak or how. But they knew the room was about to tilt, because what happened next wasn't just a clash of opinions. It was a collision of two Americas. To see how we got here, we need to understand who was on that stage. To understand the eruption on that stage, you have to understand the woman who lit the fuse. Candace Owens did not appear in American politics by accident. She carved her place by wielding controversy as both shield and sword. From the moment she stepped into the public eye, she positioned herself not as a consensus builder, but as a lightning-rod figure who drew attention, outrage, and headlines in equal measure. Her rise was fueled by the art of provocation. Where others built careers through policy, nuance, or community work, Candace built hers on confrontation. She understood the mechanics of the digital age, that in a world dominated by algorithms, outrage was currency. And she spent it lavishly. One fiery monologue could send her trending on Twitter. One combative interview could guarantee her clips ricocheting across TikTok and Facebook. She wasn't just speaking to audiences, she was baiting them, drawing clicks, and ensuring her name stayed in the headlines, no matter the cost. But beneath the self-styled image of fearless truth-teller lay a trail of contradictions. She branded herself as the voice of free speech, yet she frequently demanded that dissenters be silenced or dismissed. She decried victimhood culture, yet repeatedly cast herself as a victim of shadowy plots and media conspiracies. She championed the values of tradition, while often breaking with those very traditions when it served her rise. Each contradiction was smoothed over not with explanation but with volume speak loudly enough, and few will notice the cracks beneath the surface, and her style was unmistakable. Candace didn't debate, she attacked. Her words weren't crafted to persuade. They were designed to sting. Mockery, exaggeration, personal insult, these were her tools. She thrived not in the calm exchange of ideas, but in the chaos of disruption. The more rattled her opponents became, the stronger she seemed. It was theater, and Candace was the star, who knew how to play to the cheap seats. Yet even stars cast shadows, and Owen's shadow grew long. Time and again her rhetoric went too far. There were the incendiary statements that seemed designed less for truth and more for shock value. There were the moments where critics accused her of bending facts beyond recognition to score a viral. And there were the times when even allies shifted uncomfortably, warning that her brand of politics was less about vision and more about spectacle. Commentators began to take notice. Threads on social media dissected her tactics like clockwork. Candace starts calm, then escalates to dominance, then pushes past the line until the crowd gasps. Analysts warned that her strength was also her weakness. Her ability to stir chaos was undeniable. But chaos is a beast that eventually turns on its master. Time after time, they predicted the same outcome. Eventually, someone would meet her storm with silence. And in that silence, her fury would be exposed for what it was. Still, Candace leaned into the chaos. The bigger the controversy, the bigger her platform grew. Networks invited her back again and again, knowing her presence guaranteed viewership spikes. Universities booked her for events, aware that her speeches would draw crowds both for and against her. She was not just a commentator, She was a performance, and the performance thrived on outrage.